Dogs are living in a dog world, and that's what's important that humans understand, or dog owners understand, is that your dog, even though it's living with a bunch of humans, is still living in a dog world.
Where do we start?
So Barkbusters is actually one of the bigger dog training companies in the world. We established ourselves in 1989 in Australia by Sylvia and Danny Wilson. They were trainers, and they were also associated with a rescue. And as they were growing tired of people bringing their dogs and turning their dogs in because their dogs are too aggressive, they found a solution to help owners keep their dogs. So as they were helping people, they became overwhelmed and started to branch out. And that's pretty much how we got started. We're now in 5 countries. We're in Australia, the United States, Japan, Canada, and England. So we're pretty big group of people now.
What is the number one reason causing people to feel like they can't handle having a dog?
You know, there's a lot of reasons, but I think the main reason is that they just can't handle it anymore, or the dog's just taken over their life in a way that they don't know how to manage it. I think we get a lot of returns of dogs that are aggressive, dogs that lunge, dogs that bark too much at strangers, dogs that bite. So oftentimes I'm one of the last persons that they'll contact for help. So we're no strangers to aggressive dogs.
And the big thing is being able to speak their language, right?
Yeah, just being able to say no, right? And your dog getting it. And there's a little bit more involved in that. I mean, dogs have feelings, right? So how can I tap into my dog's feelings and understand what's going on with them, and how can I make them feel better? And we do that by communicating with them and teaching them basic things, like guiding them. How do you get through the human world? What are some of the boundaries in the human world, and how, as an owner, can I guide you through this?
Mm-hmm. Do all dogs speak the same language, or how would you describe dog language?
They do actually speak the same language. So if we're talking about a little Chihuahua or, a bigger breed boxer, same language. They're all on the same lines. Their brains are pretty much wired the same way. They are all originated from wild dogs. They have a common ancestor. And this is how they communicate, right? They're really smart animals. They can learn human words and associate those human words with good or bad things. But yeah, they do actually have their own language. They can't just have a conversation with us in English or any other language, right? So yeah.
Would it be possible that 2 dogs are talking to each other and they're making fun of humans behind their back?
Probably.
Really? Almost definitely. So side note, I've seen this thing on Instagram lately where people have these dog mats with buttons on them. And have you seen this? And the dogs go over and they push a button and it says like, I love you. And they push like different.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are those things?
So basically, if trained, the dog can associate, if I press on this button, there's going to be something that's going to happen. If I press on this button, something else is going to happen. So go for a walk. Maybe you'll teach a dog to hit go and for, and I want to go for a walk, then I'll hit walk. And then the dog associates pressing those buttons with going for a walk or getting a treat or anything else.
Wow.
So you got to take the dog aside and put some time into teaching them what those associations are. This is a really fun way of interacting with your dog. Not an easy thing to train. It takes a lot of time. As a trainer, a Barkbusters trainer, my interest is more teaching your dog to have a good relationship with you. So if the dog is always able to communicate exactly what they want, and as a human, you give them what they want, then we're seeing that the dog is pretty much making decisions. And your goal as a dog owner is to be the person to make decisions. The more decisions that your dog makes, the more that your dog is able to act out on their feelings. Right. So we want to give them the guidance and teach them, I'm leader. Let's work together. Let's get through this world together. Because dogs do tend to act out their feelings, and we don't want them to do that. Basic needs for a dog are very much the same as human basic needs. So if you're looking at the basic foundation, food, shelter, entertainment, and of course love, but also leadership, right? So you want to make sure that and as a holistic dog trainer, this is the first thing I address with my clients. Is the dog well fed? Are they on a good diet? Do they have a safe space? Do they have adequate amount of exercise and entertainment in the day? And do they have leadership? These are the 4 basic foundation things that dogs need in order to thrive.
Mm.
And then we take it from there, right? I find where the gaps are and how I can help the dog improve, or how the owner can identify what's missing in my dog's life and how can I improve their life and the way they feel and their behavior as a result.
Yeah. I think maybe sometimes, being selfish humans, we get a dog because it's going to fulfill our own needs, whether it's just companionship, something to cuddle, something that looks just cute. And yeah, we're forgetting that these dogs have all of these other needs as well. It's a really big responsibility.
Absolutely. And humans want to do what's right for their dog. They love their dogs. But we will need to identify what the difference is between our dog's needs and human needs, right? So they're not always aligned. And we tend to forget about the layers that are in place to help us feel safe and happy in our lives. The dog doesn't understand that there's a lock on the door. The dog doesn't understand that there's police and that there's civil society. So our goal is to help them to understand that they're safe, they got a strong leader. And without knowing that they have a strong leader, then they're not going to feel right at all, because they're constantly going to be afraid. Who's taking care of the most important thing, which is our survival? And that's basically what they care about most, because they're animals. And ultimately, us humans care about it as well, but we understand it in a different way because we're living in a human world. Dogs are living in a dog world. And that's what's important that humans understand, or dog owners understand, is that your dog, even though it's living with a bunch of humans, is still living in a dog world.
What are our dogs thinking in terms of what their job is or their role in the family? Because they are a member of the family. Do they see it that way? And how do they put themselves in the family in terms of what their job is?
They totally see themselves as part of the family, and they totally see themselves as a member that has a role. And they need a clear defined role, and they need guidance to understand what their owner expects from them. Without having any type of guidance, the dog will do what comes naturally to them. They're going to come in the family, and they're going to assess the family, who does what around here, right? So the dog doesn't realize when we're on our computers that we might be working. We might be doing a little bit of hunting, quote unquote. We're
Right.
working. They don't
Yeah.
identify that the same way. If we were working on a farm, it might be a little bit easier for them to understand, okay, well, in the morning we get up, we take care of the livestock, we water the plants, we take care of our gardens and all that. The dog will understand that much better. But because we're living in our home, the dog sees what day-to-day life is around the house all of the time. So they don't know when we're working and when we're leaving, where are we going? They don't see any of that side.
Yeah.
So they're quite concerned about what's what, who's keeping us safe, right?
So they might think the person that is sitting on the laptop, for X many hours a day is like the laziest person in the family.
Possibly.
I mean, well, you're making all the money, right? Is that possible?
Absolutely. And that's what I try to explain to my owners is, this dog doesn't really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're just trying to think, he's sitting here. What's he doing sitting here? There's someone walking up the street. I hear him. I smell him. I can see him out the window. Shouldn't we be worried about that guy?
Yeah. What are some of the things that are affecting dogs now that we aren't living on the farm and we're sort of in this modern day lifestyle?
Absolutely. So if you're living in a condo, for example, the dog hears all of the other people that are living nearby. They hear the neighbor, they hear the people upstairs, downstairs, the hallway. Even if you don't hear them, their hearing is much better than ours. And they're worried about what's going on. So if your neighbor's dropped his hairdryer and it made a big loud sound, your dog is going to be worried about that because he doesn't know what's going on. So it's important for us to learn how can we make our dog feel more comfortable? How can we talk to our dog basically and let them know, you don't need to worry about this. I got this.
Have you found there are some strange behaviors or behaviors that surprised you once you became a dog owner and later a holistic trainer?
So I didn't know a lot about separation anxiety. That is something that I didn't know was actually a thing until I became a dog owner 5 years ago. I was not expecting my dog to worry when I was gone. I just thought, hey, you can let them go. They're fine. They'll find a place to go lay down. They're just laying down and doing their thing all the time anyway. But it's not the case at all. When you leave, they will worry. So what we want to do is make sure that they have something to do when we're gone, leaving them with a chew or a treat, having them settle in their den. And this is something that we need to start teaching them from puppyhood. Right. So these kind of things, it kind of surprised me to learn that dogs are worried so much about when their owner and they leave the house. And then these other behaviors, such as getting reactive towards other dogs. Why are they getting reactive towards other dogs if they don't even know that dog? What's wrong with that dog? Why don't you like that dog? So those sort of things, you can definitely train out of a dog.
There are ways to help your dog understand that I'm going to be coming home in a few hours.
Yeah, well, we want to help the dog feel relaxed when we're gone, right?
Yeah.
So it's if the dog is already established that it has an anxiety around the owner leaving, then we got to find a way to help them settle when we're gone, and we teach them to do that. So the best thing to do this is to train your dog when they're puppies. So you want to start them when they're fresh home and get them associated and have positive associations with that crate. Right. And crate training is key because a dog needs to have their own space where they can chill out and relax. Otherwise, they're going to start worrying about everything outside of that den. They're going to worry about the whole home. And it's a lot of things to worry about. So when their owner leaves, if they're experiencing separation anxiety, or even a puppy, if their owner leaves the room, they're going to start crying because they want their owner to come back. So we don't want to go from, okay, dog, I see that you're crying every time I leave. I'm going to get you to go in your den, and I'm going to close the door and let you cry it out. That solution doesn't work for a lot of dogs. And if you were to do that, it would take a long process because the dog becomes quite anxious when they're in the crate. And if they're crying it out, the more anxious they're getting. And then if the owner returns while the crying is happening, then that behavior is reinforced because I was crying and barking. They came back to me. So teaching them to spend time alone. And you might want to start with a short period of time and then increase that. We, as a dog training company, we communicate with our dogs the way other dogs would. So there are things that a mother dog would not tolerate from her puppies that humans will tolerate from our children.
Ooh, will you give us examples?
Well, I mean, there's some commonly, there's a lot of videos on the internet that you can find to watch dogs that communicate with each other. But we've all seen it at the dog park when dogs meet each other, they'll play. Or if they don't play, one dog will snap at the other dog or growl at the other dog, right? So when a mother dog doesn't want her puppies on her, she'll try ignoring them. And if that doesn't work, she'll let them know, leave me alone.
Yeah.
And if they don't get it, then she's really going to move forward and claim space and tell these dogs, I really meant it. I didn't want you here. And the dogs will listen to their mom.
Right.
So this is how they communicate. Because dogs don't have the ability to reason the same way that humans do. So getting that message through in a way that they understand, we've found is very effective.
And humans have to understand what's happening. Because sometimes there's a misunderstanding, I feel. Well, they think, oh, that dog's aggressive. And you're like, no, that's just the...
And this is what we've done as a dog training company. We've studied wolves because they're the closest ancestors of our dogs. And this is exactly, they're animals. Our dogs are animals. No matter how cute and fluffy and cuddly they are, they're still animals, and they still have animal instinct, and they'll act out on that instinct. Some of the most aggressive dogs that I've worked with are also the sweetest dogs. They love their owners. They're so thoughtful and compassionate. They're just always giving affection to their owners. So they're not vicious dogs. They're just very anxious dogs. And that's what animals do. They act out on their feelings. They have that, that extreme fear that kicks in. That's it. They go into fight mode.
Yeah.
And dogs aren't any different from that.
I know you're a holistic dog trainer. What is the difference between a holistic dog trainer and like a regular dog trainer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the difference from our approach, and the reason why we call our approach holistic, is because we're not just talking about, okay, well, how do I stop my dog from doing this? For example, if a client comes and asks me, he's always barking out the window, or he's always barking at the door, or he's always barking in general. How do I stop my dog from doing this? And our answer to this is always going to be the same. We have to address the way your dog is feeling. We need to start at the basics. Does your dog have a good diet? Does your dog have exercise time? Does he have a safe space? All of those things are the holistic part. But then also, how are we setting a stage to have the best relationship possible with our dog? Because a good relationship with our dog is a lot like a good relationship with anybody else. You want to have the communication aspect. So when you speak, you want your dog to understand what you're saying. You want them to respect you. Respect goes both ways as well. And then the trust. And trust will go both ways as well. So once you have that model in place, then the sky's the limit. Every time you say no to your dog, because they understand you, because they respect you, and because the trust is in place, they will listen to you. And it really doesn't matter when or where the problem is happening. We just have to establish those basics. So I set the stage. So how are we going to build this relationship with your dog? And the way we started saying, well, we're going to get the little wins in, because the little wins are easy, and then get them into the bigger stuff.
You're not just correcting a behavior, you're helping to create a better relationship overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then that all starts with the most basic things, because when you're around the house doing your thing, your dog is watching you. Your dog knows how you're feeling. The dog knows your strengths, your weaknesses. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to communicate with your dog that everything's okay. We're good.
In terms of training, like when you see a new dog, I guess sort of two questions. What age, when the puppy is brought home, should they start the training? And also, is it more difficult to train a rescue dog? What's the experience like for you?
So when an owner gets a puppy, we like them to go through that initial honeymoon phase. So just bring the puppy home, enjoy your puppy, get to know your puppy, get that bonding thing going on. And I would say the same as anyone who's adopting an older dog. Take the time to bond with that dog. So I would say approximately 4 weeks in. That
Okay.
would be the right time.
Okay.
And then yeah, with puppies, you know, it's mainly what you want to work on is management. There's not a whole lot of training you want to do with a puppy initially. You want to teach them manners. You want to provide them a safe space. You want to have them on a regular schedule throughout the day. It's a lot like having a human baby, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to let a little puppy have the run of the whole house.
Right.
You want to put them into a safe space if you can't watch them, because
Right.
otherwise they will tear the place apart.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah.
Older dog rescue, it comes down to what that dog's temperament is, right? So once you've gotten through that honeymoon phase, knowing what are the issues that you want to address with this dog, how do you want to help this dog move forward? So rescue dogs are a little different from dogs that you might adopt through other alleys, but rescue dogs, they come, some of them with a lot of baggage. They've been bounced from home to home to home to home. So getting training for a rescue dog could be really effective in helping them feel safer, and also helping bond that relationship, that bonding come even closer, because your dog is learning that, hey, this new person who has me, they're not going to give up on me. They're teaching me things. They're working with me. They're showing me why I don't need to be afraid of the things that I'm afraid of. Some rescue dogs will come. They're so anxious because they're afraid of being unloaded again. So they'll grow very attached and start following their new owners around because they're afraid of losing them.
That's so sad.
It is.
Yeah. But it must be so rewarding doing what you do.
It
Right?
is. It is. It's so much fun, and yeah, I'm humbled by people who bring me in their home to talk about their dogs, and just open up entirely to let me know what is it, what is it that's going on, how are
Yeah.
you feeling. Yeah.
And that's cool. You do the training in the owner's home.
Exactly. So the dogs are relaxed. And what's more important is that the owners are relaxed. And dogs learn better in an environment where there's no distractions. Take them somewhere where there's a lot of things going on, they're automatically going to be overstimulated, and it's really difficult for them to learn when things are overstimulated. So if they're in their own home and there's nothing going on and their owner is working with them one-on-one and I'm there to coach them, I don't go in and start handling people's dogs, and it's not my role. They're not my dog. I don't have a relationship with that dog. So when the owner is working with their dog, then it's one-on-one. There's no one else in the picture.
Okay, so you're just guiding. You're guiding the human on what to do.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Exactly. And the dogs they listen so much better to their owners anyway, because they want to please their owners.
Right.
If I come into the picture, it depends on how they would see me.
Mm.
Right. So it's much better to let someone who knows them, someone who loves them, take the reins. So here's what you got to do. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's teach your dog a few rules and see how they respond. And they do quite well.
Mm. That's awesome. And who's your dog?
My dog. I have 2 dogs.
Yeah. What are their names?
Hannah and Phil.
Hannah and Phil. Oh, I love the Phil. That's a great name for a dog. I've never heard that before. That's the perfect human name. Phil. What breed do you have?
Boston Terriers.
Boston Terriers. For you, is that like the best breed to get, or is that you're partial?
I a lot of the times when I work with clients and I meet their dogs, if I really love their dogs, I'll tell them something like, "Can I just take him in my bag and take him home with me?" And part of me means it. I would totally take that dog. Wow. But I initially the Boston Terriers were a really great dog for me because they can go. I can put a lot of mileage on them, and they're small. They don't take up a lot of space. So that was why I chose them as a breed.
Yeah.
At this point, now that I've been a trainer, next time around, I'd probably go with a rescued dog. And I'd be pretty impartial about the breed. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't really matter to me.
Yeah. Interesting. And what about dog people versus cat people? I mean, obviously, right? These cat people are. My son has always said he likes cats. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's an interesting. They don't really ever have trainers for cats.
Yeah. Well,
so
you could train cats.
Can you? I've never even heard of that.
Absolutely, you can train cats. You can find it on the internet. People have their cats well trained. They can even use the toilet.
Oh my! But can dogs do that too?
I don't know if I would want to teach that to my dog.
Yeah, maybe that's a little too much. It's a little messy. Good point. That was a dumb question.
The nice thing about cats is that they're not really worried about the survival of the family. They're kind of more concerned about themselves. They love their family. They love being around their family, but they're not. They don't have that protective nature that dogs have.
Oh, that's got to be the biggest difference. So you're saying they hear a sound, they don't worry about it. They hear someone walking down the hall in the next condo over. They're not worried about that.
Well, they might be a little worried, but they're not ready to fight with whoever's in the hallway.
Yeah.
Whereas the dog will be hearing the sound and barking and barking and barking, and then the sound disappeared, and the dog's thinking, "Hey, I did a good job.
Yeah.
Like, that guy's gone because I barked at him."
Yeah.
Cats won't do that.
Interesting. Yeah, the dogs really own it. They really take it on.
They do. They own everything they see, everything they hear. As far as they can see out the window, this is their territory.
Wow.
One of the things about dogs barking out the window is that when they're looking out the window and they're barking out the window, they're worried about what's going on out there. And as dogs are worrying about what's going on out there, so is their overall level of anxiety. So if they're at the window, looking out the window, and they're barking, and they're thinking, "Hey, I'm doing a great job at guarding the territory. These guys, I got this." And they see your neighbor walking by every day, and they're really worried about your neighbor, taking them outside for a walk after. They might still be worried about your neighbor. So letting your dog bark out the window, that's something that isn't helpful for your dog's overall stress level.
Not helpful.
No.
So you want to just discourage that.
Discourage anything that you think is a behavior where your dog is barking because they're anxious. Right?
So they would almost be maybe addicted to sitting there at the window and like anxiously watching for any movement any people.
And some of them are working all day. They're
Yeah.
working all day, 24/7, worrying about what's going on outside. So you can imagine if you're so stressed out in your job, your human job,
Yeah.
24/7, you're going to be pretty anxious and you're going to have a really low tolerance level for things that stress you out.
Right.
So we want to take the dogs away from that. Let them have some time to chill out.
Right. Well, that makes sense. If someone's listening and they're like, okay, how do I even begin this journey? How does that start? They email you, call you. Hey, my dog, Billy is, needs a little help. What's the process like for you when taking on a new client?
Sure. They can visit our website at barkbusters.ca. Send us. I'm on there. You can look at the list of trainers available, and I'm covering the North Vancouver, Coquitlam, Tri-City area, including Pitt Meadows. Yeah, just visit the website, send a form submission, or give me a call. My number is right there, and one of my assistants will be happy to set you up with your first meeting.
Awesome. Julie, this has been great. Really appreciate it. High paw.
High five. Thanks
Right,
a
yeah,
lot.
right. Awesome. Thank you.